The dinner rush at Bellanova's was always chaos, but tonight felt different. The kind of difference that made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. The kind that whispered run even when your feet were glued to Italian marble floors worth more than your annual salary. I'd been working at Bellanova for 8 months, long enough to know the rhythm of New York's most exclusive restaurant, long enough to recognize the regulars, the celebrities who wanted corner booths, the business executives who ordered the most expensive wine to impress clients they secretly despised, long enough to know that Table 7 was reserved every Thursday at 8 o'clock for a man whose name never appeared on any reservation list, but whose presence commanded absolute deference from everyone, including Vincent Bellanova himself. Alessandro Marchesi, Table 7. Always alone, always watching. I'd served him exactly 4 times in 8 months. He never looked at me directly, never made small talk, never did anything that would make him memorable to anyone who wasn't paying attention. But I was always paying attention. You learned to pay attention when you'd grown up the way I had, when survival meant reading rooms and people and knowing when to make yourself invisible. Tonight, I wished I'd called in sick. Maya, Table 7 just arrived. Sophie grabbed my arm as I emerged from the kitchen, her fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. Her face was pale, eyes too wide. Vincent wants you to take it. My stomach dropped. Why me? I'm not even in that section tonight. I don't know. Sophie's voice dropped to a whisper, but he was specific. He said your name. And Maya? She leaned closer. Be careful. Something's wrong tonight. Vincent's been on the phone all evening, and Marco's been watching the front entrance like he's expecting trouble. Marco was head of security, former military, built like a tank, with eyes that missed nothing. If Marco was nervous, that meant everyone should be nervous. I smoothed down my black apron, checked that my white shirt was still crisp, and walked toward Table 7 with my heart hammering against my ribs. Alessandro Marchesi sat with his back to the wall, as always. Dark suit that probably cost more than my rent for 6 months. Silver threading through black hair at his temples. 40, maybe 42, with the kind of face that belonged on Roman statues. Sharp, cold, beautiful in a way that made you forget to breathe. He was reading something on his phone, but I knew the moment I approached. His shoulders shifted almost imperceptibly, his attention focusing on me without his eyes ever leaving the screen. Good evening, Mr. Marchesi. My voice came out steady despite everything. Can I start you with something to drink? Whiskey. Neat. Macallan 25 if Vincent still has it. His voice was deep, controlled, with the faintest trace of an Italian accent that American private schools hadn't quite erased. Of course. I turned to. Leave. Maya. I froze. He'd never said my name before, never acknowledged that he knew it. I turned back slowly. Alessandro was looking at me now, really looking, and the intensity of his gaze made my pulse spike. Dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything, the slight tremor in my hands, the way I was breathing too fast, the fact that I was terrified without fully understanding why. The risotto tonight, he said carefully. Is it good? It was a strange question. Everything at Bellanova's was good. That's why people paid $300 per person to eat here. Yes, sir. Chef Marco prepared it himself. Wild mushroom and truffle. Something flickered across his face. Chef Marco is in the kitchen tonight? Yes, sir. Not Chef Elena? If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. My mind raced. Chef Elena was supposed to be working tonight. She always worked Thursdays, but she'd called in sick an hour before service, and Chef Marco had taken over. I'd thought nothing of it at the time. Chef Elena called in sick. I said slowly, Chef Marco is covering. Alessandro's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I see. The whiskey, then. Nothing else for now. I walked to the bar on legs that felt disconnected from my body. Something was wrong. Everything about this felt wrong. Sophie caught my eye from across the dining room and mouthed, "What happened?" I shook my head. I didn't know what happened. I just knew that Alessandro Marchesi had asked about who was cooking his food, and the answer had made him look like a man calculating odds of survival. I delivered the whiskey 10 minutes later. Alessandro took it without comment, his attention seemingly focused on the other diners. But I noticed the way his gaze lingered on the kitchen entrance, on the servers moving in and out, on Vincent Bellanova standing near the host stand with his phone pressed to his ear and an expression that made him look 10 years older. Mr. Marchesi, I set down fresh bread and olive oil that he hadn't requested. Have you decided on dinner? Not yet. He sipped the whiskey, then looked at me with those unreadable dark eyes. Tell me, Maya, how long have you worked here? 8 months, sir. Do you enjoy it? It was the kind of small talk that should have been normal. Except Alessandro Marchesi didn't make small talk. He spoke in commands and single-syllable responses. This felt like a test. Yes, sir. Bellanova is an excellent restaurant. That's not what I asked. He tilted his head slightly. Do you enjoy working here? Not the restaurant. The actual work. The people. The environment. My throat felt tight. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Also not what I asked. I met his gaze and made a decision that was probably stupid but felt necessary. No, sir. I don't particularly enjoy it, but it pays better than anywhere else. I've worked, and I need the money. Something that might have been approved crossed his face. Honest. I appreciate that. He set down his whiskey. The risotto. I'll have that. But Maya? Yes, sir? Watch who plates it. Make sure you see exactly who touches my food before it reaches this table. My blood ran cold. Sir, I don't understand. You're intelligent. His voice dropped. Meant only for me. Don't pretend otherwise. Someone called in sick tonight who was supposed to be working. And now I'm being asked what I want to eat by someone who just admitted she needs money badly enough to work somewhere she doesn't enjoy. He leaned back, his expression neutral again. Watch who plates my food. If anything seems unusual, anything at all, I want you to tell me before you serve it. I should have walked away. Should have told Vincent that table 7 was making strange requests. Should have done anything except nod and whisper, yes, sir. But I nodded. Because Alessandro Marchesi wasn't asking me to do something suspicious. He was asking me to help keep him alive. I put in the order and positioned myself where I could see the kitchen through the service window. Chef Marco was working the line, his movements efficient and practiced. But there was someone else there too. Someone I didn't recognize. A man in kitchen whites, maybe 35, with a shaved head and too many tattoos creeping up his neck. He was working at the pasta station, and when the risotto order came through, he took it. My heart started hammering. Chef Marco usually handled all of Table 7's orders personally. Everyone knew that. But tonight, Marco was letting this stranger prepare Alessandro Marchesi's food. I watched the tattooed chef work. Arborio, rice, stock, butter, parmesan, wild mushrooms. Everything looked normal. But when he thought no one was watching, his hand dipped into his jacket pocket. Quick, practiced. Something small transferred to his palm. Then his hand hovered over the palm. Risotto plate. I couldn't breathe. Time seemed to slow down. The crystal I'd been polishing slipped from my fingers and shattered on the floor, the sound sharp enough that everyone turned to look, including the tattooed chef. His hand jerked away from the plate. Whatever he'd been holding disappeared back into his pocket. He shot me a look that made my blood freeze, then turned and walked out of the kitchen through the back entrance. Maya? Sophie appeared at my side. Are you okay? You're white as a sheet. I'm fine. Just clumsy. I couldn't take my eyes off the risotto plate sitting on the pass. I need to grab something from the back. I didn't go to the back. I went to the kitchen, grabbed a fresh plate, and told Chef Marco that Table 7's risotto had been compromised, that a server, me, had accidentally touched the rim, and we needed to remake it. He looked annoyed but nodded, personally preparing a new plate while I stood there and watched every single ingredient go in. When I delivered it to Table 7, my hands were shaking so badly that the plate nearly rattled. Alessandro looked at it, then at me, reading something in my expression that made his entire body tense. Thank you, Maya. His voice was carefully controlled. It looks perfect. He didn't eat it. Not right away. Instead, he looked at me with an intensity that made the air feel too thick to breathe and asked, Is there anything you'd like to tell me about this dish? The dining room suddenly felt too hot, too crowded, too dangerous. I thought about the tattooed chef, about whatever he'd been holding, about the way Vincent had been on his phone all night, and Sophie had said something felt wrong. I thought about my little sister, Emma, who was 12 and living in a foster home in Queens because I'd aged out of the system but she hadn't yet. About the lawyer I'd been saving money to hire, trying to get custody, trying to prove I could give her a stable home. About the fact that I needed this job, I needed the money, needed to not get involved in whatever this was. Then I thought about what it would feel like to watch someone die right in front of me, and know I could have stopped it. My hand moved before my brain fully processed the decision. I grabbed the small notepad from my apron, the one I used for taking orders, and scribbled 2 words. Fast. Messy. Then I set the notepad on the edge of his plate, right where he couldn't miss it. First plate. Alessandro's eyes dropped to the words. His expression didn't change, but something happened in his gaze. Something cold and calculating and absolutely lethal. He picked up the notepad, read it, then calmly tore off the page and slipped it into his jacket pocket. When he looked at me again, it was like looking at a different person. Still controlled, still composed. But underneath, there was a fury that made my knees weak. "Thank you, Maya." He said it loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Then, quieter, just for me. "Go to the break room, lock the door, don't come out until I come get you." "Sir, I don't..." Now, it wasn't a request. It was a command from a man who was used to being obeyed without question. And something in his voice, in the way he'd shifted from distant to protective in the span of seconds, made me listen. I walked toward the break room on legs that felt like jelly. Behind me, I heard Alessandro make a phone call. Heard him say something in rapid Italian that sounded like orders being given. Heard the sudden change in atmosphere as Vincent appeared at table 7, his face pale, his hands gesturing frantically. Then I heard the front door of the restaurant burst open, heavy footsteps, shouting, someone screaming. I ran. The break room was a cramped space behind the kitchen, barely large enough for a table, 2 chairs, and a row of lockers. I locked the door like Alessandro had ordered, then immediately realized how stupid that was. If someone wanted in, a cheap lock wouldn't stop them. My phone, it was in my locker. I grabbed it with shaking hands and did the only thing I could think of. I texted Sophie. "What's happening out there?" The response came back almost immediately. "Police are here. Someone tried to attack Vincent. Alessandro Marchesi is talking to them." "Maya, where are you?" "Break room." "I'm okay. Stay there. It's crazy out here." I sank onto one of the plastic chairs and wrapped my arms around myself. My whole body was shaking. I'd just saved someone's life. Maybe. Possibly. Or maybe I'd just made myself a target for whoever had tried to poison Alessandro Marchesi's food, the tattoo chef. I didn't even know his name. But he'd walked into Bellanova's kitchen like he belonged there, and no one had questioned it. Which meant someone had vouched for him. Someone with authority. Someone like Vincent. Oh God. Vincent. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "This is Alessandro. Are you hurt?" My fingers trembled as I typed back. "No. What's happening?" "Police are handling the situation. You're safe. Don't leave that room until I come for you. The chef. The one who tried to gone. My people are looking for him. Maya, what you did tonight saved my life. I won't forget that." I stared at the message for a long time. My people. Like he had an army. Like he was someone who commanded loyalty and fear in equal measure. Like he was exactly what I'd always suspected. Not just a wealthy businessman who liked expensive Italian food. Something else. Something dangerous. 20 minutes passed, then 40. I could hear muffled voices, doors opening and closing, the general chaos of a restaurant being shut down mid-service. My phone kept buzzing with texts from Sophie, from other servers, from the assistant manager asking if I was okay. I ignored all of them except one. Emma. "Hey Maya. Mrs. Patterson says I can stay up late tonight to finish my book report. Can you help me edit it this weekend?" My heart squeezed. Sweet, innocent Emma, who had no idea that her older sister had just stumbled into something that could get them both killed. I typed back quickly. "Of course, Bug. Can't wait to read it. Love you. Love you too." A knock on the door made me jump so hard I nearly dropped my phone. "Maya," Alessandro's voice. "It's me. You can open the door." I stood on shaky legs and unlocked it. Alessandro filled the doorway, somehow looking completely composed despite whatever had just happened. Behind him, I could see police officers talking to Vincent, servers being interviewed, the entire restaurant transformed into a crime scene. "Come with me," Alessandro said quietly. "We're leaving." "I can't just leave. I need to give a statement to the police." "Already done. I told them you were in the break room when the incident occurred and saw nothing." His dark eyes held mine. "As far as anyone knows, you're completely uninvolved." "But I am involved. I saw..." "What did you see, Maya?" His voice dropped lower. "A chef preparing food. That's all. You don't..." I know what he intended to do with it. "You don't know anything except that I asked you to watch who plated my meal, and you did. That's not a crime." He was protecting me, actively, deliberately removing me from whatever investigation was happening. "Why?" I whispered. "You don't even know me. You saved my life tonight." Alessandro stepped closer, and I realized just how tall he was, how much space he took up. That creates a debt, and I always pay my debts. He paused. "But right now, the people who tried to kill me think you're just a server who happened to be working table 7. Let's keep it that way. What if they find out I warned you? They won't." It was said with absolute certainty. "Now, do you have someone who can pick you up? Family? A boyfriend?" I almost laughed. "No, I usually take the subway." His jaw tightened. "Not tonight. My driver will take you home." "Mr. Marchesi, I really can't." "Alessandro," he corrected. "And yes, you can. You're exhausted. You've had a trauma, and I'm not letting you navigate New York public transportation at 11 at night when the people who just tried to kill me might be watching to see who helped me." Put that way, it was hard to argue. I grabbed my jacket and purse from my locker, too drained to fight anymore. Alessandro placed a hand on the small of my back, guiding me through the restaurant's back entrance to avoid the chaos in the main dining room. A black SUV idled in the alley, windows tinted, expensive enough that it probably cost more than most people's houses. The driver opened the back door without a word. "Where do you live?" Alessandro asked. "Queens, Astoria." I rattled off my address, watching as he texted it to the driver. "I'll be in touch," he said. "Tomorrow, maybe the day after. We need to talk about what happened tonight, what you saw. I don't want to be involved in this." The words burst out before I could stop them. "Whatever this is, whoever tried to hurt you, I don't want any part of it." Alessandro studied me for a long moment. "You became involved the moment you wrote those 2 words, Maya. I'm sorry, but I promise you this." His voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "No one will hurt you, not while I'm alive to prevent it." It should have sounded arrogant. Instead, it sounded like a vow. He closed the door before I could respond, and the SUV pulled away from Bellanova, leaving behind the flashing police lights and the restaurant where my quiet, anonymous life had just exploded into something I didn't understand and couldn't control. I didn't know it then, but Alessandro Marchesi was right about one thing. I was involved now. Completely, irrevocably involved. And there was no going back. The SUV dropped me at my apartment building at 11:43. The driver, a man in his 50s with kind eyes and an Eastern European accent, made sure I got inside safely before driving away. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it that morning. Small studio, barely 400 square feet, with a Murphy bed that didn't quite fold up properly and a kitchen consisting of a hot plate and a mini fridge. But it was mine, paid for with money I earned, in a building that didn't ask too many questions about my background or why a 24-year-old woman was living alone without family. I locked the door, threw the deadbolt, and shoved a chair under the handle for good measure. Then I collapsed onto the Murphy bed and tried to process what had just happened. Someone had tried to poison Alessandro Marchesi in a crowded restaurant during dinner service. That level of boldness meant either desperation or confidence that they'd get away with it. Maybe both. And I'd stopped it. With 2 scribbled words on a notepad. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. "This is Luca, Mr. Marchesi's head of security. I'll be outside your building tonight. You won't see me, but I'm here. Sleep well, Maya." I stared at the message in disbelief. Alessandro had posted security outside my apartment. Like I was someone important. Like I was someone worth protecting. Or like I was someone who'd become a liability. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed watching shadows move across my ceiling, jumping at every sound from the street below, wondering if the tattooed chef was out there somewhere looking for the server who'd ruined his attempt at murder, wondering what I'd just gotten myself into. And more terrifyingly, wondering why part of me, the part that had been drowning in double shifts and overdue bills and impossible custody battles, felt more alive than I had in years. Morning came with harsh sunlight that made my head pound. I'd managed maybe 2 hours of actual sleep, the rest spent in that terrible half-conscious state where every noise became a threat, and every shadow held danger. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Sophie, 2 from the assistant manager at Bellanova's, and 1 text message from an unknown number sent at 6:32 in the crest. "Morning, good morning, Maya. My office noon today. Address below. This isn't optional. Alessandro." Below the message was an address in Midtown Manhattan. The kind of address that meant glass towers and corporate headquarters and security that asked for 3 forms of identification before letting you through the lobby. I should have ignored it. Should have blocked the number, called in sick to work, maybe even looked into breaking my lease and disappearing to another borough, where men like Alessandro Marchesi and tattooed assassins couldn't find me. Instead, I took a shower that was too hot and got dressed in the only professional clothes I owned, black slacks that were starting to pill at the seams, and a gray blouse I'd bought at a thrift store in Brooklyn. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw exactly what I was. A girl from nowhere, with no family and no resources, playing dress-up in a world that belonged to people like Alessandro. The subway ride to Midtown felt longer than, as usual. Every person who bumped into me made my heart race. Every set of eyes that lingered too long made me want to run. By the time I emerged at 42nd Street, my hands were shaking again. The building was exactly as imposing as I'd expected. 60 stories of steel and glass with a lobby that looked like it belonged in a modern art museum. The security guard at the front desk took one look at me, and his expression said he was already calculating how fast he could escort me back outside. "Can I help you?" His tone suggested he very much hoped he couldn't. "I have an appointment with Alessandro Marchesi." The words felt ridiculous coming out of my mouth. "Noon. My name is Maya Santos." The guard's eyebrows rose. He checked something on his computer, then his entire demeanor shifted. "Of course, Miss Santos. Mr. Marchesi is expecting you. 60th floor, elevator on the right. You'll need this." He handed me a visitor's badge that looked more like a high-tech credit card. "Security will meet you when you arrive." The elevator was the kind that made your stomach drop. All glass and chrome and a digital display showing floors ticking by faster than seemed safe. When it stopped at 60, the doors opened to reveal a reception area that could have housed my entire apartment building. A woman in her 30s, beautiful in that polished corporate way that required effort and money I couldn't fathom, smiled at me from behind a massive desk. "Miss Santos? Welcome. Mr. Marchesi asked me to bring you to his office as soon as you arrived. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? Espresso?" "Water would be great." My throat felt like sandpaper. She pressed a button on her desk. Moments later, another woman appeared with a glass bottle of water that probably cost more than my subway fare and a crystal glass that definitely did. "This way, please." I followed her down a hallway lined with abstract art that I pretended to understand. Through glass walls, I could see conference rooms filled with people in expensive suits, offices with views of the Manhattan skyline, the machinery of legitimate business operating at the highest levels. This was Alessandro's world. Not dark restaurants and whispered threats, but this. Power dressed up in corporate respectability. The receptionist stopped at a door at the end of the hall. "Mr. Marchesi is just finishing a call. He'll be with you in a moment." She knocked twice, then opened the door to an office that was less a workspace and more a statement of dominance. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Furniture that was probably Italian and definitely expensive. Bookshelves lined with legal texts and what looked like first editions. And behind a desk that could have landed planes, Alessandro Marchesi stood with his phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian with an edge to his voice that made it clear whoever was on the other end was about to have a very bad day. He saw me and held up one finger. 1 minute. I stood there awkwardly, clutching my glass of overpriced water, trying not to stare at him. He'd traded last night's suit for something even more tailored. Charcoal gray with a crisp white shirt and no tie. He looked like he'd slept perfectly, worked out at dawn, and conquered several small countries before breakfast. Meanwhile, I probably looked like I'd been awake for 72 hours and lived on instant ramen, which wasn't far from the truth. Alessandro ended the call with something that sounded like a command, then set down his phone and turned his full attention to me. The shift was immediate and unsettling. One moment he'd been conducting business with cold efficiency. Now he was looking at me like I was the only thing in the room that mattered. "Maya, thank you for coming." He gestured to the sitting area by the windows, 2 leather chairs that probably cost more than a semester of college tuition. "Please, sit." I sat. Alessandro took the chair across, and from me, close enough that I could see the faint scar along his jaw that I'd never noticed in the dim lighting of Bellanova's. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Did you sleep?" "Not really." There was no point in lying. He could probably see the shadows under my eyes. "Your security guy, Luca," he texted me, said he was outside my building. He was, all night. Alessandro leaned back, studying me. "I wanted to make sure you were safe." "Safe from what?" I set down the water glass before my shaking hands could betray me. "Mr. Marchesi, I don't understand what's happening. Why did you bring me here?" "What you want from me." "Alessandro," he corrected gently. And I brought you here because we need to talk about last night, about what you saw. What you did. I already told you what I saw. A chef I didn't recognize was plating your food. Something felt wrong, so I warned you. I wrapped my arms around myself. That's it. That's all I know. That's not all you know. Alessandro's voice was quiet but firm. You saw him reach into his pocket, saw his hand move toward my plate. You knew he was about to poison my food before he actually did it. That's not intuition, Maya. That's an observation. Training. Survival instinct. He paused. Where did you learn to read people like that? My chest tightened. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, bringing us closer. I had my people run a background check on you last night. I hope you'll forgive the invasion of privacy, but given the circumstances, I needed to know who'd just saved my life. Horror flooded through me. You investigated me? I had my people run a background check on you last night. Foster care, multiple jobs, fighting for custody of your sister Emma. His voice was clinical, but his eyes held something else. Understanding, maybe. Or pity. I needed to know who'd just saved my life. I couldn't breathe. Hearing my life summarized like that, reduced to bullet points, in some report, made me feel exposed in a way that had nothing to do with physical danger. Why? My voice cracked. Why do you need to know all that? Because the people who tried to kill me last night are going to want to know who warned me. Alessandro's expression hardened. And when they start asking questions, when they review security footage and interview staff, your name is going to come up. The server who was assigned to table 7, the one who watched the kitchen, the one who remade my risotto personally instead of serving what was already plated. Fear crystallized in my stomach. They'll know I helped you. They might suspect, which means you're in danger. He stood, walking to the windows, hands in his pockets. The man who tried to poison me works for the Volkov family, Russian organized crime. They've been trying to move into my territory for the past year. Last night was their most direct attempt yet. Your territory. I repeated the words slowly. You're talking. Like I'm exactly what you think I am. Alessandro turned back to me. My family has controlled shipping operations in New York for 3 generations. Legitimate businesses, mostly. But we operate in a world where legitimacy and criminality blur together, where contracts are enforced through loyalty rather than courts, where rivals don't file lawsuits, they send assassins. There it was. Confirmation of everything I'd suspected but hoped wasn't true. Your Mafia. The word hung in the air between us. That's a simplistic term, but yes. He didn't flinch from it. My family maintains order in certain business sectors. We ensure shipments arrive safely. We resolve disputes. We protect our interests. He paused. And we don't tolerate threats, which means the Volkov family just declared war by attempting to kill me in a public restaurant. I stood on shaky legs. I need to leave. I need to take Emma and go somewhere. Where? Alessandro asked quietly. Where will you go, Maya? You have no resources, no family except Emma, who you can't legally take across state lines. His voice softened. You can't run from this, but I can protect you. Like you protected yourself last night? The words came out sharper than intended. Someone walked into that kitchen and almost killed you, if I hadn't been paying attention. But you were paying attention. You saw what no one else saw. You acted when anyone else would have frozen. Alessandro crossed the space between us in 3 strides. Maya, I'm offering you protection. Real protection. Not just a guard outside your building, but safety. For you and for Emma. My heart lurched. Emma? I spoke with her caseworker this morning, Mrs. Patricia Henderson. She was very forthcoming about Emma's situation, once I explained that I was conducting a background check for a potential employment opportunity. Alessandro's expression was unreadable. Emma is aging out of her current foster placement. The family she's with is moving to New Jersey next month. She'll need to be relocated. Again, I knew all of this. Had been losing sleep over it for weeks. But hearing Alessandro say it, hearing him lay out my sister's instability like he was reading a grocery list, made me want to scream. What do you want from me? I whispered. I want you to let me help. He said it simply. I want you to move into a secure location where the Volkov family can't reach you. I want you to allow me to hire the best family lawyer in New York to handle your custody case. And I want you to trust that I will never let anything happen to you or Emma. Why? The question burst out. Why would you do all that for someone you don't even know? Alessandro was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes holding mine. When I was 8 years old, my mother was killed. Car bomb meant for my father. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. His voice was carefully controlled, but something raw bled through. I spent the next 30 years watching my father build walls around himself. Around me. Around everyone we cared about. He became so focused on protecting what was his that he forgot how to actually live. He stepped closer, and I could smell his cologne. Something expensive and subtle that probably had a name I couldn't pronounce. Last night, I was sitting in Bellanova's expecting to have dinner and discuss business. I was prepared for many things, but I wasn't prepared for a server I barely knew to risk her own safety to save my life. His hand came up, fingers ghosting along my jaw so lightly I almost thought I'd imagined it. "You didn't have to do that, Maya. You could have walked away. Let me eat poisoned risotto. Claimed you saw nothing. Instead, you warned me. Anyone would have." "No." His voice was firm. "They wouldn't have. Most people freeze when confronted with real danger. They convince themselves they're seeing things. They choose not to get involved." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "But you didn't freeze. You acted. And now I owe you a debt I can never fully repay." I should have stepped back. Should have told him I didn't want his protection or his money or whatever dangerous bargain he was offering. But I thought about Emma, about her moving to another foster home, another school, another set of strangers who would tolerate her but never love her, about the fact that I'd been trying for 6 years to save enough money to hire a lawyer and was still nowhere close. "If I agree to this," I said slowly, "what exactly am I agreeing to?" Alessandro's hand dropped away, but his gaze never wavered. "You move into a property I own in Tribeca. Secure building, 24-hour doorman, full security system. You continue working at Bellanova if you want, or I can find you other employment. Your salary will be supplemented to ensure you can afford necessities." "You mean you'll pay me to let you protect me?" "I mean I'll ensure you're not drowning financially while I deal with the Volkov situation." His jaw tightened. "And Maya, I will deal with them, permanently, but that takes time, planning. In the meantime, you need to be somewhere safe." "And Emma?" "I've already contacted Thomas Brennan, best family attorney in New York. He's reviewing your case today. With proper legal representation, you could have custody within 3 months, maybe sooner." Alessandro pulled a business card from his pocket and pressed it into my hand. "This is his direct line. He's expecting your call." I stared at the embossed card. Thomas Brennan, attorney at law. An address on 5th Avenue that made my current lawyer's strip mall office look like exactly what it was, a desperate last resort. "How much is this going to cost me?" I whispered. "Nothing. I'm covering all legal fees." "Why?" I looked up at him. "This isn't just about repaying a debt. Nobody does this much for a stranger out of gratitude." Alessandro's expression shifted into something I couldn't read. "You're right. It's not just gratitude." He walked back to his desk, put distance between us like he needed space to admit something difficult. "The man who tried to poison me last night, Viktor Volkov's personal chef turned assassin, is still alive. He escaped before my security could apprehend him, which means he's going to report back to Viktor. And he's going to mention the server who interfered." My stomach dropped. "He saw me. He saw you drop that glass. Saw you watch him. Saw you remake the dish." Alessandro's voice was grim. "Viktor Volkov is many things, but stupid isn't one of them. He'll put the pieces together. And when he does, he'll view you as either an obstacle to remove or leverage to use against me. So you're protecting me to protect yourself. It should have hurt more than it did. Should have felt like manipulation. Instead, it just felt honest. I'm protecting you because you matter." Alessandro said it quietly, with a conviction that made my throat tight. "You matter, because you saved my life. You matter because no one should suffer for doing the right thing. And you matter because—" He stopped, jaw working like he was biting back words. "Just let me do this, Maya. Please." I looked at the business card in my hand, thought about Emma in another foster home, about myself in that tiny studio apartment with its broken Murphy bed and neighbors who screamed at each other through paper-thin walls, about the fact that I'd been drowning for so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to breathe. Alessandro was offering me air. It came with strings attached, with danger I didn't fully understand, with a world I'd spent my whole life avoiding. But it also came with the possibility of saving Emma, of finally being able to give my sister the stable home she deserved. 3 months. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "You said custody could take 3 months." With Brennan handling it? Yes, possibly less. And after that? After Emma is safe and the Volkov family is dealt with. Alessandro's expression was unreadable. After that, you're free to walk away. No obligations. No strings. I'll make sure you and Emma have enough money to start fresh somewhere safe. It was everything I'd ever wanted. Security for Emma. A way out of poverty. A chance at a real life. All I had to do was trust a man I barely knew, move into his property, and let him orchestrate my existence like I was a chess piece in whatever game he was playing with the Volkov family. Okay. The word came out before I could second-guess myself. Okay, I'll do it. Something flickered across Alessandro's face. Relief? Satisfaction? It was gone too quickly to identify. There's one more thing you need to know. He walked back to where I stood, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Once you move into my protection, once the Volkov family identifies you as someone I'm actively guarding, there's no going back to your old life. You won't be anonymous anymore. You'll be visible. And in my world, visibility is dangerous. More dangerous than staying in that apartment alone while Russian assassins decide if I'm worth killing? A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. Point taken. He extended his hand. Then we have an agreement. I protect you and Emma. You stay safe while I handle Viktor Volkov. And in 3 months, you're free. I took his hand. His palm was warm, calloused in a way that suggested he didn't just sign papers all day. His grip was firm but careful, like he was conscious of his own strength. Agreement, I said. We shook on it, formal and strange, sealing a bargain that would change everything. I just didn't realize how much. The apartment in Tribeca was obscene. Not obscene in a tacky way, but obscene in the sense that it existed at all while people like me lived in 400-square-foot studios with broken appliances and mold in the bathroom. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the Hudson River, a kitchen with appliances I'd only seen in cooking shows, hardwood floors that probably cost more per square foot than my entire monthly rent, and furniture. Actual, beautiful, coordinated furniture that looked like it belonged in a magazine spread about minimalist Scandinavian design. This is too much. I stood in the center of the living room, feeling like an imposter. Alessandro, I can't accept this. Luca, who'd been tasked with moving me in, set down the single suitcase that contained all my possessions with a gentleness that made the gesture somehow worse. Mr. Marchesi was very specific about your comfort, Miss Santos. He wants you to feel at home. This isn't home. Home is. I stopped. Home was nowhere. Home hadn't existed since I was 7 years old, and my mother overdosed in our bathroom while I was at school. Luca seemed to understand. It will take time, but you're safe here. That's what matters. He handed me a key card. This is for building access. The doorman has your name. Security monitors the elevators 24/7. If anyone approaches you, anyone at all that makes you uncomfortable, you call this number. He gave me a card with a single phone number printed on it. That's my direct line. I'll be here in under 5 minutes. You can't just drop everything every time I get nervous. That's exactly what I can do, and will do. Luca's expression was kind but firm. Miss Santos, Mr. Marchesi gave very clear instructions. Your safety is now my primary responsibility, not his, not anyone else's. Yours. It should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like someone had wrapped a warm blanket around shoulders that had been cold for years. Thank you, Luca. He nodded once, then headed for the door. Mr. Marchesi will be by this evening around 7. He wanted to make sure you're settled. And Miss Santos? He paused. He's a good man. I know his world seems harsh, but he'll keep you safe. I promise. Then, Luca was gone, and I was alone in an apartment that cost more per month than I'd earned in the past year, surrounded by luxury I hadn't asked for and protection I desperately needed. My phone buzzed. Sophie, calling for the 3rd time since I'd texted her that I was taking a few days off. I answered. Hey, Maya, what the hell is going on? You disappear after last night's insanity, don't answer my calls, and then text that you're taking time off? Sophie's voice was pitched high with worry. Are you okay? Did something happen with the police? I'm fine. How did I explain this? I needed some space after everything. Space. Right. Because attempted murder in the kitchen is totally a normal thing to need space from. Sophie's tone softened. Look, I'm worried about you. Can I come over? Bring wine and terrible takeout and be appropriately horrified together? I looked around the Tribeca apartment. Bringing Sophie here would require explanations I couldn't give, questions I couldn't answer. Actually, I'm not at my place. I'm staying with a friend for a few days. What friend? You don't have friends. You barely have time to sleep, let alone socialize. She wasn't wrong. It's complicated. I promise I'll explain when I can. But Sophie, I'm okay. Really. Silence stretched on the other end. Then quietly, you're scaring me. Don't be scared. Just trust me. I forced brightness into my voice that I didn't feel. I'll be back at work soon. Everything's fine. We said goodbye, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. Sophie knew me too well. Knew that I didn't take time off, didn't ask for help, didn't disappear into mysteriously complicated situations. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. I spent the next hour exploring the apartment like an intruder in someone else's life. The second bedroom was set up as an office, complete with a desk, computer, and bookshelves. For Emma, I realized, Alessandro had created a space for my sister in an apartment I hadn't even agreed to move into yet. The bathroom had heated floors. Heated floors. I'd been living with a shower that randomly switched between scalding and freezing, and this bathroom had heated floors. The refrigerator was fully stocked. Fresh produce, expensive cheeses, bread from a bakery that probably required reservations, wine that I definitely couldn't afford. A note sat on the counter in elegant handwriting. Maya, please make yourself at home. Order anything you need through the building concierge. Account is under your name. I crumpled the note in my fist, fighting against the tightness in my chest. This was too much, all of it. The apartment, the lawyer, the protection, the way Alessandro orchestrated my life like he was conducting a symphony and I was an instrument that needed tuning. But Emma. I thought about Emma, about the lawyer's card in my pocket, about the possibility of finally giving her the life she deserved. I could endure 3 months of luxury and danger if it meant saving my sister. At 6:57, a knock on the door made me jump. I checked the peephole, saw Alessandro standing in the hallway in dark jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Casual, almost human. I opened the door. Hi, he said it simply, like this wasn't weird, like me living in his apartment was perfectly normal. Can I come in? I stepped aside. Alessandro entered, bringing with him that sense of controlled power that seemed to follow him everywhere. What do you think? He gestured around the apartment. Is it acceptable? Is it acceptable? I laughed without humor. Alessandro, this place is incredible. Which is exactly the problem. I don't belong here. You belong wherever you choose to be. He set a bag on the kitchen counter. I brought dinner. Nothing fancy. Just Italian from a place in the neighborhood. The smell hit me then. Garlic, tomatoes, basil. My stomach growled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since yesterday. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. Alessandro started unpacking containers. I figured your first night here should feel less like protective custody and more like, he paused, searching for words, like you're safe. Something in the way he said it made me study him more closely. Alessandro Marchesi, powerful enough to command security details and manipulate legal systems, was trying to make me comfortable, bringing me dinner like we were friends instead of strangers bound together by attempted murder and impossible bargains. Why does this matter so much to you? I asked quietly. Honestly. Alessandro set down the container he was holding and turned to face me fully. Because when my mother died, no one helped us. Everyone offered condolences. Everyone said how sorry they were. But nobody actually did anything. My father withdrew into his business. I withdrew into survival. And we never talked about the fact that we were drowning. His jaw tightened. You saved my life, Maya. But more than that, you did it knowing it could cost you everything. That kind of courage is rare. I'm not going to let you drown because of it. The words hit harder than they should have. I'd spent so long fighting alone, keeping my head above water through sheer stubbornness, that the idea of someone actively trying to save me felt foreign, dangerous. Like if I let myself believe in it, the moment it disappeared would destroy me. I called the lawyer, Thomas Brennan. I pulled out my phone, showing him the appointment confirmation. He wants to meet tomorrow. Said he's already started reviewing my case. Pride flickered across Alessandro's face. Good. Brennan's the best. He'll get Emma back to you. And then what? I moved closer. After Emma's safe. After the Volkov family is handled. What happens to us? Us, Alessandro repeated carefully. You and me. This, I gestured between us. Whatever this is. Does it just end? Do we go back to being strangers? Alessandro's dark eyes held mine for a long moment. I don't know, he admitted. I haven't thought that far ahead. Maybe you should start. I said it quietly but firmly. Because I'm about to let you reshape my entire life, Alessandro. The least you can do is be honest about what you want from me. He moved closer, eliminating the space between us until I could feel the warmth radiating from his body. What I want, he said quietly, is to know that when I sit in a restaurant, the woman who saved my life isn't wondering if she'll be able to afford rent. What I want is to never again see that look in your eyes. The one that says you're drowning and nobody's coming to help. His hand came up, fingers ghosting along my jaw just like they had in his office. What I want is complicated and selfish and probably not good for either of us. So for now, I'm going to focus on keeping you safe. And you're going to let me. It wasn't an answer, but it was honest. And somehow, that was enough. We ate dinner sitting on his expensive furniture, talking about everything except the danger we were in. Alessandro told me about growing up in Brooklyn, about his mother's love of cooking, about Sophia, his daughter who was 8 and learning piano. I told him about Emma, about the foster homes, about the life I'd built from nothing and was trying desperately to maintain. For 2 hours, we weren't a mafia boss and a waitress bound together by violence. We were just 2 people sharing a meal, finding unexpected comfort in each other's company. It was the most dangerous thing that had happened yet, because I was starting to realize that the real threat wasn't the Volkov family or Russian assassins or whatever violence lurked in Alessandro's world. The real threat was the way my heart rate picked up when he smiled, the way I felt safe for the first time in years, the way I was beginning to hope for something I had no right to want. Alessandro Marchesi was supposed to be my protector, nothing more. So why did it feel like he was becoming something else entirely? The next 3 weeks passed in a strange blur of luxury and fear. Thomas Brennan turned out to be exactly as good as Alessandro promised. Within 5 days, he'd filed paperwork for an emergency custody hearing. Within 10, he'd exposed serious violations at Emma's current foster placement, not abuse, but neglect. Missed doctor's appointments, expired medications, a caseworker who hadn't visited in 4 months. Within 15 days, I had supervised visitation rights. I picked Emma up from school on a Tuesday afternoon, my hands shaking as I watched her walk through the gates. She'd grown since I'd last seen her 2 months ago. Taller, thinner, with shadows under her eyes that 12-year-olds shouldn't have. Maya! She ran toward me, backpack bouncing, against her shoulders, and crashed into my arms hard enough to steal my breath. I held her tight, breathing in the scent of cheap shampoo and school cafeteria food, and my sister, alive and safe, and finally within reach. I missed you, Emma whispered into my shoulder. I missed you so much. I missed you too, Bug. My voice cracked. But I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere. We spent the afternoon at the Tribeca apartment. Emma's eyes went wide when we walked in, taking in the space, the view, the bedroom that Alessandro had prepared specifically for her. This is where you live now? She touched the desk in her room carefully, like it might disappear. Maya, this is so nice. It's temporary. I sat on the bed beside her. But yeah, it's pretty incredible. How can you afford this? Emma wasn't stupid. She knew exactly how much I earned, knew that apartments like this didn't exist in our world. I'd prepared for this question, had practiced the answer until it sounded natural. I got a new job, better pay. It comes with housing. What kind of job? Administrative work, for a shipping company. It wasn't entirely a lie. Alessandro had technically hired me as a consultant to justify the money he was paying. The owner is helping with the custody case too. He has connections. Emma studied me with those 2 old eyes. Is he nice? The owner? I thought about Alessandro, about the way he'd shown up at the apartment every evening for the past 3 weeks with dinner and conversation, about how he'd sat with me while I cried after the first custody hearing, offering quiet comfort without trying to fix what couldn't be fixed with money or power, about the way he looked at me sometimes, like I was something precious he was afraid to break. "Yeah," I said softly. "He's nice." Emma seemed satisfied with that answer. We spent the rest of the afternoon doing homework at the kitchen table, her favorite thing, normal sibling time that I'd been starved for. When Luca arrived to drive her back to the foster home, Emma hugged me so tight I thought my ribs might crack. "I love you," she whispered. "Don't disappear again." "I won't. I promise." Alessandro arrived 20 minutes after Emma left. He found me on the couch, still wearing the smile from the afternoon but feeling the weight of temporary settling back over me like a familiar coat. "How did it go?" He sat beside me, careful to maintain space, but close enough that I could feel his presence. "She's gotten so big." My voice was rough. "It's only been 2 months, but she looks different. Older. Children have a way of growing up when we're not watching." There was something in Alessandro's tone that made me look at him. He was staring at his hands, jaw tight. "Sophia is the same. Every time I blink, she's changed, learned something new, become more herself. When do I get to meet her?" The question came out before I thought about it. "Sophia. You talk about her all the time, but I've never—" "Soon." Alessandro cut me off, but not unkindly. "She's been staying with my sister in Connecticut. Safer, while the Volkov situation is unresolved." "Right. The Volkov situation. We'd been living in this strange bubble for 3 weeks, pretending that dinner conversations and custody hearings were our only concerns. But outside the bubble, Alessandro's world was still churning, still dangerous. "Have you found him?" I asked quietly. "The chef who tried to poison you?" Alessandro's expression went cold. "Not yet. Victor has him hidden well. But we're close." He looked at me. "Maya, there's something you need to know. Something I should have told you before, but I wanted you settled first." Dread pooled in my stomach. "What?" "Vincent Bellanova, the owner of the restaurant where you work." Alessandro's voice was careful. "He's been cooperating with the Volkov family. That's how their chef gained access to the kitchen. Vincent let him in." The room tilted. "Vincent? But why would he—" "Debt. The restaurant was failing. Vincent borrowed money from the wrong people to keep it afloat." Alessandro's jaw tightened. "Victor offered to forgive the debt in exchange for one favor. Access to me during dinner service." Vincent agreed. I thought about Vincent. About the way he'd been on his phone all night. About how he'd specifically requested I serve table 7. About how easily the tattooed chef had walked into Bellanova's kitchen like he belonged there. "He set you up." My voice was hollow. "He knew you were going to be poisoned, and he helped make it happen." "Yes. And me? Did he?" The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. "He assigned me to your table specifically." "Why?" Alessandro's silence was answer enough. "He knew I'd been watching you." Anger rose in my chest, hot and sharp. He knew I paid attention to things. He wanted me there as what? A witness? Someone to blame if things went wrong? We don't know his exact reasoning. Alessandro's voice was measured, but I could hear the fury underneath. "But yes, your assignment to table 7 was deliberate. Vincent has been questioned. He's cooperating now, giving us information about Victor's operations in exchange for—" He stopped. "In exchange for what?" I pressed. "His life," Alessandro said it simply. "Vincent made a choice. He chose debt over loyalty, over the safety of his employees. Over you." His hand found mine, warm and solid. "He doesn't get to walk away from that unpunished. You're going to kill him." It should have horrified me, should have sent me running from this apartment and this man and this world I'd stumbled into. Instead, I just felt tired. "Aren't you?" "No." Alessandro's thumb traced circles on my palm. "I'm going to let him live with the consequences of his choices. Vincent Bellanova will never work in this city again. His restaurant will close. His reputation will be destroyed. He'll spend the rest of his life knowing he sold out the people who trusted him for nothing. That's worse than killing him." I realized it as I said it. "You're taking away everything that matters to him." "Yes." Alessandro's dark eyes held mine. "Because Vincent's betrayal didn't just put me at risk. It put you at risk. Every employee who worked that night. Every customer who happened to be dining there. He gambled with dozens of lives to save his own skin." His voice dropped. "That's not something I can forgive." I should have argued. Should have said something about mercy or proportionate punishment or the system of justice that was supposed to handle these things. But I'd stopped believing in systems a long time ago. Systems had let my mother die alone. Systems had separated me from Emma. Systems had dismissed Vincent's crimes as simple business decisions, while women like me drowned trying to survive. What about Victor? I asked instead. What happens when you find him? Alessandro's expression went very still. That's not something you need to worry about. Yes, it is. I pulled my hand away. Alessandro, I'm living in your apartment. I'm letting you reshape my entire life. The least you can do is be honest about what you're planning. He stood, walked to the windows overlooking the Hudson. The city lights reflected off the water, beautiful and cold. Viktor Volkov attempted to assassinate me in a public place. That kind of boldness, that kind of disrespect, requires a response. Not for revenge, he turned back to me, but for survival. If I let this go unanswered, every rival family, every ambitious underboss, every small-time criminal with delusions of power will see it as weakness. They'll come for me, for my family, for my business. For me, I finished quietly. For you, Alessandro agreed. Victor knows you helped me now. His chef reported back before going into hiding, which means Victor sees you as either an obstacle or leverage. Either way, you're in danger until he's neutralized. Neutralized. The word sounded so clinical, so clean. You mean killed. I mean removed from power permanently. Alessandro moved closer. Maya, I know this world is harsh. I know it operates by rules that seem barbaric. But these rules exist for a reason. Victor tried to kill me. If I don't respond with equivalent force, I might as well paint a target on everyone I care about. Everyone I care about. The phrase hung between us, loaded with implications neither of us was ready to address. When? I asked. When will this happen? Soon. We've tracked Victor to a warehouse in Red Hook. He thinks he's safe there, protected by his own security. Alessandro's smile was cold. He's wrong. And then what? After Victor is handled, after Emma has custody, after everything is resolved, what happens to us? Alessandro looked at me for a long moment. What do you want to happen? The question caught me off guard. For 3 weeks, I'd been letting Alessandro orchestrate everything. Where I lived, how I spent my days, what happened with Emma's custody case. I'd convinced myself it was temporary, that once the danger passed, I'd go back to my old life with Emma safely in tow, and a nest egg large enough to start fresh somewhere far from mafia politics and poisoned risotto. But standing in this apartment, looking at Alessandro's careful expression, I realized I'd been lying to myself. I don't know, I admitted. 3 weeks ago, I would have said I wanted my old life back, my independence, my choices. I wrapped my arms around myself. But that life was drowning, Alessandro. You were right about that. And this, I gestured around the apartment, at the life he'd built for me. This feels like breathing for the first time in years. But, Alessandro prompted gently, but I don't know if I can live in your world permanently. If I can accept that justice means warehouses in Red Hook and people who disappear instead of going to trial. My voice cracked. I don't know if I'm strong enough for that. Alessandro crossed the space between us in 2 strides. His hands cupped my face, gentle but firm, forcing me to meet his eyes. Maya, you've been strong your entire life. You survived things that would have broken most people. You saved your sister and yourself through pure determination. You looked at a man you suspected was dangerous and still chose to warn him about poison because it was the right thing to do. His thumbs traced my cheekbones. You're the strongest person I've ever met. Then why do I feel like I'm falling apart? The words came out as barely a whisper. Because for the first time in your life, you don't have to hold everything together alone. Alessandro's forehead rested against mine. You have help. You have protection. You have someone who will move heaven and earth to make sure you and Emma are safe. That's not a weakness, Maya. That's trust. I don't know how to trust people. My hands came up, gripping his, wrists like anchors. Everyone I've ever trusted has either died or left or proven they can't be relied on. I know. Alessandro's voice was rough. I know what that feels like. After my mother died, I didn't trust anyone for years. Not even my father. Especially not my father. He pulled back just enough to look at me. But Maya, I'm asking you to try. To trust that I won't leave. That I won't let you down. That when I say I'll protect you, I mean it with everything I have. For how long? I needed to know. Needed to understand the boundaries of this thing between us. How long does your protection last? Alessandro's expression shifted into something I couldn't quite read. How long do you want it to last? That's not an answer. Yes, it is. His hands slid from my face to my shoulders, solid and warm. Maya, I can give you the practical answer. I can say that my protection lasts until the Volkov threat is eliminated and Emma is safely in your custody. I can say that after 2 months, you're free to walk away with enough money to start fresh anywhere in the country. He paused. But that's not what you're really asking. My heart hammered against my ribs. What am I really asking? You're asking if this, he gestured between us, if what's growing between us is real or just circumstantial. If I'm protecting you out of obligation or something else. If the danger passes, I'll disappear back into my world and leave you to yours. He was right. That was exactly what I was asking. What I'd been afraid to voice. Alessandro, I don't have good answers, Maya. He cut me off, but gently. I don't know what happens when this is over because I've never felt this way before. Not even with... He stopped, jaw working. Not even with my late wife. She was safe, appropriate. Someone my family approved of who understood the rules of our world. What I feel for you is different, complicated, probably dangerous for both of us. Then maybe we should stop. I said it, even though the words tasted like ash. Before it gets more complicated, before we're in too deep to walk away. Alessandro's laugh was bitter. Maya, we're already in too deep. We were the moment you scribbled first plate on that notepad. His hands tightened on my shoulders. I can't walk away from you. I've tried. For 3 weeks, I've tried to maintain distance, to keep this professional, to remember that you're under my protection and I have no right to want more. His voice dropped. But every time you smile at something Emma says, every time you argue with me about accepting help, every time you look at me like I'm more than just the criminal my world says I am, I forget every reason I should stay away. The confession hung between us, raw and honest and terrifying. So what do? I whispered. We take it one day at a time. Alessandro's thumb traced my jaw. We focus on keeping you safe, on getting Emma back, on surviving whatever Viktor Volkov throws at us. And after, all that, if you still want to walk away. He swallowed hard. Then I'll let you go. And if I don't want to walk away? Alessandro's eyes darkened. Then we figure out what comes next. Together. He kissed me then, soft and careful, like I was something precious. His lips moved against mine with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about his world, about the violence he was capable of, about the danger that followed him everywhere. I kissed him back, rising on my toes, hands fisting in his sweater. It was stupid and reckless and probably the worst decision I'd ever made. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't drowning. I was choosing something for myself, something that felt right even though it was all wrong. When we finally pulled apart, Alessandro's breathing was unsteady, his careful control showing cracks. This is a terrible idea, he said, but he didn't let me go. Probably. I rested my forehead against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. But I'm tired of making good decisions that leave me miserable. Maya. His phone rang, shattering the moment. Alessandro pulled it from his pocket, saw the caller ID, and his entire demeanor shifted. The man who'd been kissing me disappeared, replaced by the cold, controlled boss I'd first met at Bellanova. Talk to me, he answered, voice clipped. I couldn't hear the other end, but I watched Alessandro's expression harden with each passing second. When? Pause. How many? Another pause. No, keep your eyes on him. Don't move until I get there. He ended the call and looked at me with an expression that made my stomach drop. We found Viktor. That's good, right? He's not alone. Alessandro was already moving, grabbing his jacket from the chair where he'd tossed it earlier. He has leverage. 3 women from Bellanova. Servers he grabbed this afternoon when they left their shifts. Horror flooded through me. Sophie? I don't have names yet. But Maya. He stopped, jaw tight. Viktor is making demands. He wants you in exchange for their release. The world tilted. Me? Why? Because he knows you matter to me. Alessandro's voice was deadly calm. Because taking you accomplishes 2 goals. It removes the witness who warned me, and it hurts me in a way that killing me wouldn't. He's forcing me to choose between you and 3 innocent women. Then there's no choice. I said it before I fully processed the words. You let him have me, and you get those women back safely. Absolutely not. Alessandro crossed back to me in 2 strides. Maya, I'm not trading you for anyone. Not for 3 people. Not for 30. You are not expendable. But they are. The words came out sharper than intended. Alessandro, Those are my coworkers. Maybe my friends. I can't just let them die because Victor wants leverage against you. You won't be letting them die. I will be saving them." His hands cupped my face. "Maya, listen to me. Victor is not going to release those women no matter what I give him. He's going to use them as bait, kill whoever shows up, and then kill them anyway. This isn't a negotiation. It's a trap." "Then what do we do?" Alessandro's expression went cold. "We spring the trap, but not the way Victor expects." 2 hours later, I sat in the back of an SUV with tinted windows, wearing a bulletproof vest that was somehow both too heavy and not heavy enough, listening to Alessandro brief his security team on a plan that involved me walking directly into danger. "She goes in wearing a wire," Luca was saying, pointing at a blueprint of the Red Hook warehouse. "We need confirmation of the hostages' location before we move. Once Maya identifies where Victor is holding them, we breach from 3 points simultaneously." "What if Victor searches her?" Another security member, Marco, asked. "The wire won't survive a pat-down. He won't search for her." Alessandro's voice was certain. "Victor wants to make a show of this. He wants me to watch him take Maya. He'll be focused on theatrics, not security protocols." "And if you're wrong?" I asked quietly. All eyes turned to me. "If Victor does search me, finds the wire, realizes this is a setup, what happens to those women?" Alessandro's jaw tightened. "That won't happen, but if it does, then we adapt." He cut me off. "Maya, I know you're scared. I know this plan requires you to trust me completely, but I need you to believe that I will not let anything happen to you, to any of you." "How can you be so sure?" Alessandro's expression softened slightly. He crossed to where I sat, crouched down so we were eye level. "Because I've spent 3 weeks learning everything about Viktor Volkov, his patterns, his psychology, his weaknesses. I know he's arrogant. I know he values spectacle over efficiency. I know that when given the choice between a smart tactical decision and a dramatic gesture, he'll choose drama every time. His hand found mine. That's his weakness, and we're going to exploit it." I wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this would work, that we'd save Sophie and the others, that I'd walk out of that warehouse alive. But doubt gnawed at me, sharp-toothed and hungry. "What if I can't do this?" The words came out small. "What if I freeze or panic or, you won't?" Alessandro said it with such conviction that I almost believed him. "You didn't freeze when you saw that chef reaching for poison. You didn't panic when you warned me. You acted. That's who you are, Maya. When it matters, when lives are on the line, you act." He was right. I had acted. But this was different. This wasn't scribbling 2 words on a notepad. This was walking into a warehouse where a man who wanted to hurt Alessandro would have every opportunity to hurt me instead. "I'm terrified," I admitted. "Good." Alessandro's thumb traced my knuckles. "Fear keeps you sharp. Just remember you're not alone in there. I'll be listening to every word. And the second I give the signal, my team moves. 30 seconds, Maya. That's all you need to give me. 30 seconds to identify where the hostages are being held. And then you get down and stay down until we secure the area." His other hand cupped my cheek. "I'll come for you personally. I promise." Luca cleared his throat. "Boss, we're 5 minutes out." Alessandro nodded but didn't break eye contact with me. "Maya, I need to know you're ready for this. If you're not, if you have any doubt at all, we'll find another way." I thought about Sophie, about the other servers at Bellanova who were probably terrified and wondering why no one was coming to help them, about the fact that I'd spent my whole life running from danger and it had gotten me nowhere except alone and drowning. "I'm ready." I said it with more confidence than I felt. Alessandro studied me for a moment longer, then nodded. He stood, his expression shifting back into the cold mask of the man who commanded organizations and made people disappear. "Luca, final equipment check. Marco, confirm positioning with the breach teams. Everyone else, radio silence unless it's critical." He looked at his watch. "We move in 10 minutes. The warehouse loomed ahead, exactly as intimidating as I'd expected. Rusted metal siding, broken windows, the kind of place where terrible things happened, and no one heard you scream. Alessandro helped me out of the SUV, his hand lingering on mine for just a moment longer than necessary. "Remember," he said quietly, "meant only for me. 30 seconds, then you're done." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "And Maya?" Alessandro pulled me close, his lips brushing my ear. "When this is over, When everyone is safe, we're going to finish that conversation we started. About what happens next. About us. Before I could respond, he stepped back, his expression neutral again. Professional. Like he hadn't just kissed me senseless 2 hours ago. Like I wasn't about to walk into potential death. Luca appeared, at my side. Wire is live. We hear everything, Miss Santos. You're not alone. Then I was walking toward the warehouse entrance, my heart hammering so hard I was sure Victor would hear it from inside. The metal door was slightly ajar, light spilling from within. An invitation, or a trap, both probably. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The warehouse was cavernous, mostly empty except for a few metal shipping containers and industrial equipment that had seen better decades. But in the center, illuminated by overhead work lights, was exactly what I'd feared. Sophie, bound to a chair, her face bruised, mascara streaking down her cheeks from crying. 2 other women I recognized from Bellanova, Marie and Jessica, similarly tied up, similarly terrified, and standing behind them, smiling like a man who'd already won, was Viktor Volkov. He was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with sharp Slavic features and eyes that held no warmth whatsoever. He wore an expensive suit that looked wrong in this setting, like he was cosplaying at being a businessman instead of actually being one. Maya Santos. Victor's English was accented but perfect, the little waitress who thinks she can play the hero. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Let them go. I forced my voice steady. This is between you and Alessandro. They have nothing to do with it. Oh, but they have everything to do with it. Victor walked around the chairs in a slow circle, his hand trailing across Sophie's shoulder in a way that made her flinch. These women work at Bellanova, the same restaurant where you ruined my carefully planned assassination, where you decided to interfere in matters that didn't concern you. He stopped, looking directly at me. Actions have consequences, Maya. Tonight, you learn what those consequences look like. I'm here, like you wanted. My hands were shaking. I clasped them behind my back, trying to hide it. Let the others go. You have what you wanted. Do. I? Victor tilted his head. Because what I wanted was Alessandro Marchesi dead. What I got was embarrassment, humiliation. My chef was forced to flee like a common criminal. My reputation is damaged. His expression hardened. So no, Maya, I don't have what I wanted. But this, he gestured at the hostages, at me. This is a good start. He moved closer, and every instinct screamed at me to run. But I forced myself to stay still, to meet his cold gaze, to count seconds in my head. 15, 16, 17. Do you know why Alessandro cares about you? Victor asked conversationally. A nobody waitress from Queens with no family, no money, no particular beauty or talent. What makes you special enough that he'd risk 3 lives to save yours? I don't know. The truth seemed safest. Neither do I. Victor circled me like a predator. But he does care. I've been watching him. Watching you, the apartment in Tribeca, the fancy lawyer working on your sister's custody case. The way he looks at you when he thinks no one's watching. He leaned closer. Alessandro Marchesi, the ice-cold boss who hasn't shown weakness since his wife died, is weak for you. And that, he smiled, that is leverage I can use. 23, 24, 25. So here's what's going to happen, Maya. Victor pulled out a phone, holding it up. You're going to call Alessandro. You're going to tell him that if he wants to see you or these women alive again, he'll come here, alone, unarmed, ready to negotiate. He won't come. I said it with certainty. Alessandro doesn't negotiate. He will for you. Victor's confidence was absolute, because men like Alessandro, men who pretend they're untouchable, always have one weakness, always have one person they can't afford to lose. You're his weakness, Maya, and I'm going to use you to destroy him. 28, 29, 30. I'd done it. 30 seconds. Given Alessandro everything he needed: hostage location, Victor's position, the layout of the space. Now I just had to survive until help arrived. Make the call. Victor shoved the phone at me. My hand closed around it. I looked at Sophie, at Marie, at Jessica, 3 women who'd done nothing wrong except work at the wrong restaurant and know the wrong person. Then I looked at Viktor Volkov, and something in me shifted. The fear was still there, sharp and cold. But underneath it was something else. Anger. The kind of rage that came from a lifetime of being powerless, of watching people hurt others and face no consequences, of systems failing and justice dying because nobody cared enough to fight. No, the word came out steady, clear. Victor's expression shifted to confusion. What? I said no. I dropped the phone. It clattered on the concrete floor, the sound echoing through the warehouse. I'm not calling Alessandro. I'm not helping you hurt him. And if you're going to kill me, you'll have to do it knowing that you failed. Again. Victor's face darkened with fury. You stupid little. The warehouse lights went out. Everything happened at once. The sound of metal doors being breached, shouting in Italian and Russian. Gunfire, sharp cracks that made my ears ring. I dropped to the ground like Alessandro had told me, covering my head, making myself as small as possible. More shooting. Someone is screaming, boots pounding on concrete. Then a hand on my shoulder, strong and familiar, pulling me up. Maya? Alessandro's voice, rough with relief. Are you hurt? No. The others, being secured now. He was already moving, pulling me toward the exit, his body positioned between me and whatever chaos was unfolding behind us. Come on. We burst out of the warehouse into cool night air. The SUV was there, door open, Luca behind the wheel with the engine running. Alessandro pushed me inside and followed, slamming the door. Go, he ordered. The SUV peeled away from the warehouse, leaving behind the gunfire and the shouting and whatever was happening to Viktor Volkov. I was shaking so hard my teeth chattered. You're okay. Alessandro pulled me against his chest, his hand cradling the back of my head. You're okay. You did perfectly. Exactly what I asked. You're okay. I buried my face in his shoulder and cried. Not pretty crying, but the ugly, gasping kind that came from adrenaline crash and terror and relief all mixed together. Alessandro held me through it, murmuring words in Italian that I didn't understand but felt anyway. Safe, protected, cared for. The others? I finally managed. Safe. All three. My team got them out through the north exit while Victor was focused on you. Alessandro pulled back just enough to look at me. Maya, what you did in there refusing to call me, standing up to Victor, that was either the bravest or most reckless thing I've ever witnessed. He said I was your weakness. The words tumbled out. He said you cared about me. Was he right? Alessandro's dark eyes held mine. Yes. That's all? Just yes? What else do you want me to say? His thumb traced my cheekbone, wiping away tears. That I've spent 3 weeks trying not to care? That I told myself you were just another person under my protection? That I could keep this professional and distant? His voice dropped. Victor was right. You've become my weakness, Maya. And I don't know what to do about that. Figure it out. I said it with more strength than I felt, because I didn't almost die tonight just to go back to being strangers. Alessandro's laugh was rough. We were never strangers. Not from the moment you wrote those 2 words on my plate. He kissed me then, harder than before, desperate and claiming. You're mine to protect now. That doesn't end when the danger passes. That doesn't end when Emma is safe. That doesn't end, Maya. Not unless you walk away. What if I don't want to walk away? Then you stay. He said it simply. You stay in Tribeca. You stay with me. We figure out what. This is together. What about Emma? She stays too. The custody hearing is in 2 weeks. Brennan says it's a formality at this point. You'll have full custody. Alessandro's expression softened. And she'll have a home. A real home. With you. He hesitated. With me, if you'll let me be part of that. The offer hung between us, massive and terrifying and everything I'd never let myself hope for. Alessandro, you're asking me to... I'm asking you to trust me, he interrupted. To believe that I can give you and Emma the life you deserve. I'm not promising perfection. My world is complicated and dangerous and sometimes impossible, but I can promise you safety, security, and, he swallowed hard, and love, if you'll let me. Love. The word echoed in the space between us. That's a big word, I whispered. It's the only word that fits. Alessandro's forehead rested against mine. I love you, Maya Santos. I've probably loved you since you scribbled first plate and looked at me like I was worth saving. I fought it, told myself it was impossible. But tonight, when you walked into that warehouse, when I thought I might lose you, his voice cracked. I can't do that. I can't lose you. You're not going to lose me. I kissed him, soft and certain. But Alessandro, I need to know what happened to Victor. His expression went cold. He's been handled. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. Alessandro pulled back slightly. Maya, there are parts of my world that you don't need to see. Things I do to keep people like you safe that you shouldn't have to carry. Viktor Volkov is gone. That's all you need to know. Did you kill him? Alessandro was silent for a long moment. Then, justice isn't always clean. Sometimes it's brutal and harsh and handled in ways that courts don't recognize. But it's still justice. He looked at me. Are you asking if I'm a killer? Yes, I am. I've killed to protect my family, my territory, my people. And tonight, I killed to protect you. I should have been horrified, should have pushed him away, should have demanded he take me back to my old life, to that tiny apartment where at least the violence was abstract instead of personal. Instead, I pulled him closer. Thank you. For killing a man? For keeping Sophie alive? For saving Marie and Jessica? For sure I walked out of that warehouse. I met his dark gaze. For loving me enough to do terrible things to keep me safe. Maya, I'm not naive, Alessandro. I know what your world is. I know what you are. I took a shaky breath. And I'm choosing you anyway. Something broke in his expression. The careful control, the mask he wore to keep everyone at a distance. All of it cracked open to reveal the man underneath. Vulnerable. Afraid. Desperately hoping I meant what I said. You're sure? His voice was rough. Once you make this choice, once you step fully into my world, there's no going back. You'll be mine, and everyone will know it. That protection, that safety I'm offering, it comes with being associated with me permanently. I'm sure. Alessandro kissed me again, and this time it felt different. Not desperate or claiming, but like a promise, like a vow, like the beginning of something that would either save us both or destroy us trying. The SUV pulled up to the Tribeca apartment. Luca opened the door, carefully not looking at us even though we were both disheveled and I was still crying. The hostages? Alessandro asked him. In medicine, shaken but unharmed. Their families have been notified. Luca paused. And boss? The cleanup crew is handling the warehouse. It'll be like tonight never happened. Good. Alessandro helped me out of the SUV, his hand firm on mine. Make sure Sophie and the others understand they're under our protection now. Anyone asks questions, they say they can't remember details. Trauma, confusion, whatever story medical tells them to use. Already arranged. We rode the elevator to the 60th floor in silence. Inside the apartment, Alessandro finally let go of my hand, putting space between us like he needed distance to say whatever came next. You should rest. He said it carefully. It's been a long night. Tomorrow we can talk about... Stay. I cut him off. Don't leave. Don't make me process this alone. Alessandro turned slowly. Maya, if I stay, I know what I'm asking. I crossed to him, eliminating the space he'd created. Stay. Please. He searched my face for a long moment, looking for doubt, for fear, for any sign I didn't mean it. Whatever he saw satisfied him. Okay. Alessandro's hands framed my face. I'll stay. We didn't sleep. Not right away. We lay in bed, still dressed, just holding each other while the adrenaline slowly drained away, and reality settled over us like a blanket. Alessandro told me about his daughter, about his wife who'd died of cancer 3 years ago, about the life he'd built that always felt incomplete, until now. I told him about Emma, about the life I'd fought to build from nothing, and somewhere between midnight and dawn, wrapped in expensive sheets in an apartment I still couldn't quite believe was mine, I fell asleep against Alessandro's chest and dreamed about futures that had seemed impossible 24 hours ago. When I woke, sunlight was streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and Alessandro was gone. But there was a note on his pillow in that elegant handwriting I was starting to recognize. Maya, Emma's custody hearing has been moved up. It's this afternoon at 2 p.m. Thomas will meet you at the courthouse. Luca will drive you. I'll be there. Front row. Watching you become the mother Emma deserves. Wear something that makes you feel powerful. You've earned it. A P.S. I meant what I said last night. All of it. Especially the part about loving you. I read the note 3 times, then pressed it to my chest, smiling like an idiot. 3 weeks ago, I scribbled 2 words on a notepad to save a stranger's life. Today, I was going to court to reclaim my sister, supported by a man who'd killed to keep me safe and promised to love me anyway. Tomorrow, I'd figure out how to navigate a world where justice came with bodyguards and criminals sometimes looked like heroes. But right now, in this moment, I was just grateful. Grateful to be alive. Grateful to have fought my way out of drowning. Grateful for Alessandro Marchesi and his impossible protection, and the fact that he looked at me like I was worth saving. Some stories didn't have neat endings. Some involved federal investigations and custody battles and men like Viktor Volkov who disappeared into the night. This was mine. And I'd choose it again. Every single time. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.